Is a editorial person, a journalist for China Dialogue. This is an NGO based in London and provide platform for communication between China and I guess the EU or UK for that matter on world environment issues. And she's going to talk about Shan Zhai from a cultural perspective. So I guess you guys can still continue to eat as a speakers. She can watch you eat while she talk. So, got it.
Well, thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's such a morning that forced me to get up extremely early to meet you guys. All right, so my name is Scully. I work for China Dialogue as a journalist and editor. And Karl and I presented before, and we've been doing this research on Shan Zhai phenomenon. And as a journalist, I can't stop feeling that this is a cultural phenomenon we're talking about. And in my presentation, I'm going to talk about the culture aspects, and later on, Karl's going to talk about the technology part. So, not surprisingly, Shan Zhai is not a new word in Chinese language. It dates back from the 14th century, coming from the novel Heroes of the Marshes, one of the most famous things in the Chinese history. The word Shan Zhai does not only mean mountain fastness as on the surface, but particularly suggests a place where those who rebel against the government, against the powerful and wealthy get together. And ultimately, they are against the authorities. This strong negative attitude comes from the fact that these bunch of people, they could do nothing to change this unfair society in which the wealthy hold almost all the social resources, whereas the poor can do nothing to change their desperate situation. So ultimately, Shan Zhai stands for the spirit of rebellion, contempt, and a little bit cynicism. People would say maybe they're not very decent people, but they're smart, and they do have their own theory on justice, and they trust in themselves, in friendship, in fraternity, but not in the laws set by the rulers. So what happened to the word Shan Zhai as we come all the way from the 14th century to the 21st century? Transplanted from its rebellious meaning, Shan Zhai has actually become a cultural phenomenon in China currently, not only in the mobile industry. As a matter of fact, it is added into the Chinese vocabulary as an adjective used to describe something that is on the edge of the mainstream, that is creatively imitating the famous. What makes them different from exactly imitating is the fact they do try to impress you with the elements that the original doesn't have. So Karl's going to talk about this later, and I believe it'll open your eyes on that. And here we have Shan Zhai things, Shan Zhai CCTV news, Shan Zhai PSP, Shan Zhai bicycle, Shan Zhai everything. And yes, the Chinese netizens have created almost everything for the famous thing, the Shan Zhai edition for everything in China. And actually, I have prepared a video made by netizens that is a Shan Zhai CCTV news. But unfortunately, I can't play it here. But you can I hope you guys can check it out on the internet. It's very funny. So to now, the Shan Zhai meaning may have already changed as time changes, but it still stands for the rebellion against culturally the mainstream culture, and in the business field, that would be the monopolies or prestigious companies, whatever you call them. Here's another example of Shan Zhai. Look at this. This is a new engine. It's called Baidu, and it's a combination of Baidu, Google, and Yahoo. And this is a creature of Shan Zhai. So first of all, why this is happening in China? It has, first of all, has something to do with policy strategy, which I think Karl is going to emphasize later. It's basically about everything the Shan Zhai mobile phones have. and the branded mobile phones don't have. Until now, you might so think that this is a mere economical behavior we're talking about, whereas people would tend to look for for lower price and more powerful function, and that's it. But well, for Shan Zhai, that's not a case. That's not always the case, because as you may already notice, there are so many people talking about Shan Zhai so passionately, and as there are Shan Zhai Ji websites you can find on the internet, and there are people who would collect several sets of them just for collection, just for being cool. And this has something to do with how the Western culture is impacted by the Chinese. How the Chinese culture is impacted by the Western culture and the nature of the Chinese culture as well. So during the 30 years of reform and opening, the Chinese culture has been changed to a great scale. It is liberating the Chinese people, especially the youth, and individuality, diversity, sense of humor are added into the Chinese culture. So Shan Zhai as a culture actually is challenging the rigid hierarchy of the Chinese society. Famous for its adaptation and which is also the reason of its thousands years of survival. The Chinese culture is good at absorbing elements from the outside and makes them its own. And Shan Zhai comes to be a very typical example. And the third point is media has been boring, and people are getting tired of merely positive and serious and harmonic topics, harmonic news and reports, harmonic everything. There's this famous quotient in the Western media, which is, if it bleeds, it leads, but since in China it doesn't work. So as people sense more and more freedom of speech in the society now, they're trying to speak out, even though still above the bottom line, but they're trying to make a change by way of, for example, Shan Zhai. And still it has something to do with the urban lifestyle, which in cities like Beijing, like Shanghai, people are suffering from this stressful, high-speed, unstable, monotonous lifestyle. And most importantly, it is repressing. So people tend to look for fun from those creative, even wildly entertaining and eye-catching gadgets that make them stand out from the others. That's why a lot of fashion geeks would like to collect a lot of Shan Zhai mobile phones. And here comes the question, what about the future? What are the factors that will be pushing the Shan Zhai phenomenon to a new level? Here are some reasons I put on the screen. First of all is for Shan Zhai Ji, the performance of their performance in the market competition, the low price, the powerful function, and most importantly, their untiring willingness and swift reaction to satisfy any of the expectations that come from a variety of the market segments, no matter how bizarre they would probably look like. And Carl's going to talk about that later. And the second, it has something to do with urbanization. China now is striding towards urbanization at a full speed than ever. According to a report released by McKinsey last year, by year 2025, there will be 1 billion of the population